Hello and welcome back to another casted game on the Age of Bison YouTube channel, continuing our coverage of the 1v1 tournament in the Age of Sunbros Discord. I'm your host, SerSharkDad, joined here once again by Platypus Slayer, and today we have a pretty exciting one for you guys, in which we have Iron Turtle, which I think is his premier game. I could be wrong on that one. Playing Malta, which has been a sort of favorite so far in the tournament. It keeps popping its head up. Despite, I guess, I don't know, controversial opinions, let's say, about the nature of the Civ. And Japan being played by Gideon AI, who has continued to be a mainstay in this tournament, as well as just in the community as a whole. Japan has always been a infamous Civ, to say the least, in terms of its capabilities. And so we're going to see an interesting matchup here. A lot of thoughts running through my mind, at least. And then in terms of map, we are on Niger Delta, which I have to say is actually one of my personal favorite maps. I don't see it enough. I really do like it a lot. I think it's got a lot of good lanes. I think it's a lot of fun, actually, just the way it looks, and just water play, as well as just the angles of approach is really cool. So anyway, that's enough of me talking. Platt, if you want to go ahead and lend your thoughts into how do you feel like this match is going to be shaping up, and what do you think about these players?
Well, first off, I don't know too much about their styles other than the fact that Iron Turtle tends to play pretty standard, very practiced, very precise. He's a clinical type of player where we know Gideon is the wild card. Gideon comes up with truly mad scientist builds, and I say that in the most appropriate way because his builds, they've come out of left field. You may have seen a forum post by somebody, very high-ranking community members, saying, "What the hell just happened to me?" Truly, and that's one of his biggest strengths is he will take the game and he will just, take it to its little pieces and reconstitute it again into something that you can't even believe is still Age of Empires 3. That being said, you said earlier Malta, is a Civ that's done really well. Malta is infamously weak to the FF, but we haven't seen Malta really face into, fast fortress play very often. Japan is definitely not a fast fortress Civ. It tends to want to stay H2, boom a bit, get its shrines out, and use its very superior units to, basically take the power spike from an opponent's H3 on the face and power through. So we've got kind of an interesting setup here because both these Civs love to turtle. Both these Civs love to use, extremely potent eco cards and eco combinations. And both these Civs have some very powerful units if they choose. So I'll let it get back to you, but it looks like Gideon shipped the 3 boats first, a very classic opening for Japan, should it have water options.
Yeah, I'm just looking at this animation because I find it so silly. I don't know. I shouldn't get distracted in a cast, but like they're clapping and then they reach down into the water, pull out a fish, put it in there, and then they clap. Don't understand. Anyway.
Well, I would imagine as someone that's actually worked on boats with seagulls, God's vengeance on us all, sometimes you kind of want to get the birds away from you before you haul the fish up.
Gotcha. All right. Well, before we take a look at the decks, let's catch up. So Malta went trade post start, as we saw, aging up with 15 vills. Here, going with the quartermaster, typical 400 wood, and then we have Tory Gates, very nice, going with Japan, and he did send his 3 fishing boats. Interesting start. He's going with 16 vil age up, or I guess initially 15, right? And then Malta was doing 3 vil age up start with their card. So taking a look at the decks. German Tongue, very nice. Silversmith, so it's going to be a nice kind of doubling of sorts with Wignacourt and then Silversmith. Trip to Jerusalem, I've seen this, but I haven't really seen it played too much. I think I see it in the deck every once in a while, but so we got some fast age up options with Hospitality. Still no Squires. I'm surprised that Squires has not really made its way into Malta decks despite having that fort option. So, but you do you. Vittoriosa, very nice. Just a lot of, just H3 can be really anything. These guys have, however, the hired armored pistoliers have really been a VIP, and a lot of H4. 2 fixed guns, 2 forts, 25 bourbon allies, which is a very good card as a sleeper hit. 16 sentinels, pretty interesting into Japan considering their propensity to use Yumi. Knights of Malta, so very interesting. And also not that upgrade card, that farm card that we like to see as well. So.
Yeah, I would say this is kind of a FF or FI, definitely depending on, I think, the power of Sentinels, Order units, the base one, Goons, and Passar, and then also, looking at, he's got some powerful Merc shipments with the Silversmith, that'll be a 50% eco bonus, but maybe he's going to try to psych him out and go for a rush, or at least try to take map control from Japan.
Well, we did say Wignacourt was coming in, and then now we have the wood, and then so he's immediately going to go crossbows into this. But let's go ahead and quickly look over to Gideon because we're going to see what's going on. So 5 Ashigaru being shipped in. Let's take a look at the decks. A lot of water. 5 fishing boats, 2 funes. Interesting.
Now, a card you might want to see there on the far right of Age 2 is the Outlaw card.
Which is, once again, Gideon has just been kind of looking for off-the-wall, more mathematical strategies, right? So we are seeing the higher Ronin. You got the Merc card, a lot of coin upgrades. Got a Shogun upgrade there. Not a lot of H4, but yeah. So
knowing
flexible,
Gideon, there's probably some sort of outlaw play that he's going to try to go for. And as soon as I say that, there are his famous desert archers. If there was a unit that Gideon loves more than anything else on this earth, I would say he loves desert archers almost as much as he hates gathering resources and herding with villagers. But it looks like those crossbows are going to get right on top of them.
Yeah, these guys are pretty nasty for H2 stats if you take a look. 20, 22, 30% range resist. Not bad movement speed either. Now, I don't know their fire animation, though. It doesn't look too quick, so
no,
that's probably why. But obviously going to work, and it's good to have them when, compared to the Ashigaru, which would be absolutely torn apart by these crossbowmen. And, I want to get these initial thoughts out still, in which, both these civs, and I'm glad that we picked this because this is actually a very interesting matchup. You may be thinking, well, we see a lot of Japan and we may see a lot of Malta, but against each other, we have not. And I think what's interesting about this is that you have 2 really strong late game civ combinations. Now, of course, people say Malta's not really known for its economic potential in the late game when compared to Japan, but militarily, Malta has so many options going into H4 and can be super nasty, especially with this deck and its defensive play. And then Japan, it's going to be kind of interesting because to see if this game extends itself. 1 Ville going down there, by the way. If the game extends itself, that's going to be a very interesting play between these 2 civs. I would want to see how that interaction goes.
I think so. Japan would, I don't know which would actually have the better military because, again, Malta has that +2 HP on every single shipment. They have a lot of upgrade cards. Their units tend to be very tanky, so this is kind of a tough spot, But right now, Japan's got Yumi out, and they're one of the strongest H2 units in the entire game. They've got Ashigaru. Let's see. Oh, he just kind of throws the pikes in. Those are going to get just deleted.
Yeah, but you want that damage, I guess. But this is a very formidable comp. You now have technically a 3-unit composition, although Desert Archer and Yumi are relatively the same. These Desert Archers are just so strong for an H2 unit, despite the slow windup. I mean, their damage is really great. Their range is really great, especially for H2. So good on Gideon to have those out, and he's immediately going to go ahead and push into this base, push those crossbowmen off, and then this forward base is looking like it's going to go down. And now
it might. There's another batch of crossbows, and again, the strength of Malta isn't necessarily, it has 2 styles. It can do very strong but small armies, with kind of sentinels and fire throwers, or it can just go for kind of like a spam list, and the longer the game goes, the more that spam gets powerful with every single shipment. So we'll see what he does here. Again, all those archers, they don't really have the greatest siege, so he's probably going to get another batch out, and then, he might just win the resource war.
It's possible for sure. I mean, currently right now, 24. Now with Wignacourt, very good. He hasn't sent in, I don't think he's had the resources to really send in German tongue, which is interesting because you usually expect that during the age up, but he neglected to do that and instead opted for this kind of strong forward play, which is going to be necessary considering what Gideon was up to. And then now on Gideon's part, 25 Vills versus 24. So, of course he does have the shrines. And this composition is getting a bit larger. Now he does have a daimyo out on the field, so that's a nasty little piece of work as well. That's kind of hard to contend with basically the mobile training barracks, and you can put it in different places, plus the buff that it gives. So
yeah, very strong unit, kind of famous, one of Japan's keystone units, without a shadow of a doubt.
Now, Niger Delta does kind of favor the more turtle playstyle, I think, though. Even though you do have these angles of approach and you do have this top island that you kind of want to control along with this trade route, you do have a lot of resources here in the back, so you don't really need to play forward. Now, having these elephants is nice, so that's a bit of an incentive. But you do have options to kind of close off your own little peninsula, and then you still have plenty of coin mine, plenty of hunt, and plenty of wood. So map control is not as important, and that's going to favor, I think, Iron Turtle here. As Gideon is trying his best to kind of really push into this, and Multimass is still kind of maintained, so, but he's still idling the eco of Iron Turtle, so.
Yeah, he definitely is. And the score is in Gideon's favor right now. Again, both these civs have a tendency to take off, so Iron Turtle's going to have to come up with something to either get map control or, idle and return fire, because when he's getting idled, remember, Japan has shrines. So as long as Japan has all these shrines just trickling in resources, plus their villagers, plus any access to water, they're just going to outscale. Even Malta, we know, with its very powerful economy cards. So we'll see how Iron Turtle figures out his way to get out of this pretty strong, almost vice.
Probably needs to, right, I would say, just go ahead and go for that H3. It looks like he's kind of macroed for it. He does have one card in the bank, but I think he already sent the 700 coin. I don't know what he did with it. So that's kind of interesting. I want to see what they see. Let's go ahead and put the Fog of War on. Now I'm going to go ahead and take that trade post now that he sees it. Gideon has a pretty sizable comp, and I think very commanding in H2. I think this is quite impressive. And then on top of that, Japan, just the natural propensity for an economic boom, and just to continue to make units behind this is hard to deal with. And then plus this bonus, I mean, this is tough. I would be in a very frustrated position.
Yeah, it's extremely difficult. Again, Desert Archers, they have been nerfed several times because they're effectively kind of like a longbowman, but with the Giskenia effect, with more, rate of fire when you get up close. And when they came out, they were one pop, and, quite honestly, they were overperforming. So now that they've been tuned back, a lot of people forgot. And I think Gideon, sorry to put words in your mouth, but I think he would, declare with like a match like this that, you know what, guys, you have nerf Whiplash. This unit is not dead. This is still a very solid unit. And I think right here on the demonstration, how this thing is killing, one of the tankiest archer units in the entire game, the Maltese one. Ooh, but that Damio, he's going to take a nasty salvo.
Now, having these Sentinels is okay. I mean, when you're defending, they're going to have that HP buff, and so he's going to go ahead and train more Sentinels, and that's going to be pretty interesting. And it looks like trip to Jerusalem, so 10 1 and 10 coin for each unit I've lost so far. So pretty early play. I'm wondering how much that's going to deposit into the bank for him. I don't know if that's going to be enough to just switch to coin here and then get enough for the age up. Okay. Nice little boost there. I don't know if I would have necessarily gone for that. Maybe fast age up option or perhaps German tongue, but I'm guessing he's probably going to feel like he's going to need the res in order to just kind of continue to float, and then now to get Irish Brigadiers. But again, more heavy infantry going into a composition that is pretty much solo light infantry. So I'm wondering what the thinking is here.
To be honest, it could just be he doesn't have a commander. He doesn't really have true cavalry at the moment to push with. So he's like, you know what? I got to use what I got. And, Irish Brigadiers, they are fast, so they actually might be able to catch and snare a lot of these units if Gideon's not paying attention. So, that's the mark of a skilled player, is taking kind of a bad hand or a bad situation and finding ways to turn it into a win. So, it's looking really grim right now. So let's see how this push goes when those mercenaries appear.
Yeah, I'm curious. And does Gideon have a sixth sense? Because he's just going to go ahead and dance around. I don't think he wants to see. This is great. I love this. And this is something that I really need to be learning in my own play, is that you don't... Ooh, 2 Vils going down there instantly. You don't want to overcommit. You want to dance around. You want to continue to idle the eco.
Oh, here comes the Minutemen. Here comes the push.
Oh, huge. And they're just going to get... I mean, one volley gets off, and that's it. Oh, my... And that's it. They're done. I mean, it's a complete... Do you see how quickly those got deleted? I mean, that is absolutely insane. But these crossbowmen are still going to be alive. These guys are still firing. They're going at it. And I guess Gideon is not wanting to give up the goat. He's going to go ahead and just keep pushing. And I feel like just because, if he can just bleed out Malta a little bit here and just get favorable trades, he'll be in a good position, just because he does have that economic advantage at this point now. And he does have a very commanding lead in terms of Vils, 31 to 47. And that's because of the boat shipments. So,
Well, combination of boat shipments, shrines, the fact that Malta has not been able to get, Wigton Court or really push into map control. But you know what, though? I got to say, that was a good fight for Iron Turtle. And I think Gideon got a little bit overconfident, kind of overextended himself. He was being so cagey earlier, and it's just a mistake many of us make, right? You keep pushing, you're trying to find that perfect moment to take a decisive fight. And, Iron Turtle, even though he bled a lot of res, he's no longer idle. And the fact is, with Japan basically at full steam, he still might not be. He's got to remass slowly out of that one building, the pagoda. I think, forget what they call it. Yeah, the monastery. Um, so it's going to take him a while to remass, and so he's going to lose a lot of tempo to Malta. I think this was not necessarily a throw because he still is in a very commanding position, but I think Gideon slipped just a tiny bit there. Now Iron Turtle, he's got to figure out a way to crawl back in this game because his window is there.
Yeah, absolutely. I think more defensive buildings is probably going to need to be in the skill book here, and it's going to be difficult though, just because he has transitioned a lot to coin. He has a ton on food now on the berries, but with Malignant Court, that's not going to be too much of an issue. And I'm just wondering exactly when the age up is going to happen. I feel like he is going to need the now clearing out those shrines. But he is going to need the tech. I think he's going to, in order to compete with these mercs that Gideon is fielding in pretty sizable fashion. So, but now Hussar coming
Outlaws.
in.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, Outlaws. And so he now has the Shinobi no Mono out, and market upgrade hopefully coming in, and it's a pretty tanky market. And Desert Archer is going to be content to go ahead and siege this down. I mean, it is good to siege down the market because you know that they can re-macro those resources, and it kind of presents them a challenge with that being down. But I think he did send... Yes, he has.
Are there fishing boats? Is Gideon trying to scout water with one of his boats? Because he tries... I don't know if 2 caravels was really optimal there, but he might not have had many other options. But at the same time, Japan gets double shipments, so I think that's him just trying to kind of contain and corral. And yep, there comes Atonement. So this is going to be huge. Again, Japan has less problems with population because they tend to shrine boom so well, and because Gideon's done an excellent job to control and contain his opponent. But Malta's starting to click up here a little bit, and with Silversmith and these Hussar coming out, this is pre-PUP patch, right? So these Yumi still do full damage to Hussar, but nonetheless, they cannot defeat a Hussar wave.
Right.
And Gideon's actually very vulnerable to that tech switch.
Absolutely. Even with the 5k score lead, however, he does see them now.
Okay.
With these sieging the shrine, it's one of those questions of, do you hold them back or do you immediately put them on the field to kind of help out with pushing Japan back and kind of culling the economy? I'm not sure what the right answer is. I tend to think that maybe not showing your units is best because then you want to encourage them to push into you. But, hindsight's 2020, and now with Gideon, huge, 26 Desert Archers, now 28. And a few Shinobi now more being trained in, and more Yumi, so doubling down on the double skirm mass, and now Golden Pavilion coming in, and I don't see any intention really of age up, even though he could now. 39 now going into 40 Vils. Malta is starting to kick off. Japan's still ahead, but again, that's a lot of the fishing boat shipments, and a little raid here. Sneaky. We'll see what happens.
Unfortunately, Japan, fortunately or unfortunately, depending on which side you are on, Japan is basically unraidable. Because
the shrines
they only
just give so much line of sight, and there it is.
You have shrines, and then on top of it, although Gideon, that's right, if he's going Outlaws, he is very coin intensive, right? So, oof.
Yeah,
and that is probably why in this PUP they're going to.
Right, I was just going to say. Come on. That's a huge advocacy for the fact that hand cavalry have played a more niche, a necessary role. Yes, I agree, but a more niche role, unfortunately, just because with enough units of light infantry, they just take so much damage on the way in terms of their movement speed. Unless you're Lakota.
Yeah, and because of the way DPS works, right? Hand cav, they aren't always able to path perfectly onto things. So, but looking back on this, Gideon, I think, made a really intelligent decision to age up as well, right? Because he's basically saying, look, I've stabilized, so is my opponent, but I have all these resources I didn't have to sacrifice except for that one fight. So, good on him for buckling down and basically being like, hey, I'm going to age up, I'm going to take my advantage, and it's my game to lose, so I'm going to play it very slowly.
Just walking the mass right into it, and these Desert Archers, once again, the rate of fire is so high. And
the range is so high as well.
Man.
I think Malta needs a fixed gun.
Malta doesn't.
Or to get to H3.
He is H3, and now he's gonna get that fixed gun wagon going out, and a lot of these vills are gonna start going down. Look at that. Just disgusting. It's so hard to watch, honestly. Just this one unit just instantly just going out and alongside the Yumi. It's just so tough. And what do you do? He's going to get run around at this point, and he has no real hand cav. He has a couple of Order Hussar here, but the mass is too large, and immediately just look at that. I mean, that doesn't feel good. That just doesn't, like, that really...
It's tough. Like I said, and he doesn't have his veteran techs, I believe, either for the crossbow, so...
He does now,
Oh, he does? Okay, so this is his best shot. Oh, no, okay. Thank God the wagon went. I was about to freak out, because I thought the wagon was going to path into it, and I would be like, oh, man. And again, if you're Iron Turtle...
Once again, standing and fighting, Big Bertha getting a shot in, 3 going down, and so he's going to go ahead and back off of this. And, and I guess to Iron Turtle's credit, I would say that, you are in a situation in where kind of like... It's kind of Gideon's game to lose, because once he loses that natural resource of coin, now I don't think he's in any threat of, well, I don't know. He's got another 2 up here. But once you're running out of that natural coin, like, I don't think you're really going to have the opportunity to be able to mass these kind of units.
Yeah, like I said, this is a tough spot. Your whole Civ design is around crossbow pike, and Gideon really wisely picked a unit and a map. I'm knowing him, he practiced this with a outlaw that basically ranges and deletes both of those things, right? Because they have such a high rate of fire. They have 3 at distance at range 22. I believe they have rate of fire 2 at. Can you click on 1 and under 16 range? Oh, 1.5. Yeah. At 16 range. So the crossbows, I mean, they're just hopelessly outclassed.
Yeah, these hand cav, I don't. Oh, that drag box, that's pretty tough on the micro, and these hand cav, just even the Hussar getting in here and getting its swings in and doing some damage. You're gonna need something like Kyosia to really do anything here, just to kind of have that area of effect damage. This TC is about to go down, but it looks like Gideon once again is taking some high casualties against these crossbowmen, and he is now sending in Ronin. I wonder if this Daimyo. Well, he can't chain that close, correct? So, gonna go ahead and get those Vills out from there, and it looks like
the Daimyo can do whatever it wants, train anywhere it wants, but it can only train certain types of units. And I believe it's the Shogun that is the unit shipment. If someone in chat wants to correct me on that one, I'm not familiar with all the differences between the two. I just know that you can't make Mataru from a Daimyo.
Well, it looks like, I don't know, Malta 34 Vills now up against Gideon's 57, so that's a pretty bleak economic outlook, and it looks like, I mean, at this point, Gideon has such a commanding resource presence, but he is running out of natural coin, and eventually he will be able to convert this into either a lot of units if
We've got a fort coming up, though. We've got, it's kind of reactive. I don't really like that spot. Again, Iron Turtle, you're under so much pressure. Don't take it personal, because when you're under this much pressure for now, what, 20 minutes, something? At least 15 minutes, just mistakes are made. You're human. But I think that fort, maybe
better up here.
Yeah, just something to secure the map. Maybe even forward, like towards the choke on a flank. But because he doesn't have the highest siege composition, but now that he's got the Ronin, he does. So I mean, just the actuality is, Gideon has a monstrous force at this point, and the fact that you're just even hanging in. Yep, classic Japan things. Just go to age 3, wave your hand, and then go to age 4, because that's when you have some absolutely incredible shipments.
In his case, he does have the Moritaru, but I mean, I guess so he allies, but most of his cards are still going to be age 3. Now going with, okay, it's because he did now go natives, or he's going natives.
The timing is that timing going to be good? Because I gotta say, Gideon, if your timing's on this one, like that's pretty smooth. Credit when credit is due.
Yeah, well, let's keep an eye on that. Let's see. I don't know.
He's looking.
I don't know.
It looks like a little off. Oh no. Unless does it come after?
Is it a retroactive thing?
I only saw 300.
See.
Maybe.
We'll see. Looks like he is pushing down there a little bit.
The TC is down. Does Malta have another TC built?
We'll check in a second once I see this export come in 5 seconds.
Or not come in which case he missed it. Oh, there it goes. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Wow, it's not dependent. Okay.
Iron Turtle does have another TC in, and probably no intentions for age up at this point, just because he needs to defend, and he does not have really any units on the field, and only 33 Vills, so this is looking pretty rough. It looks like he's going to go ahead and try to get a raid in here, and it's going to be unsuccessful.
Yep, that is one of the strengths of Japan. Again, it does have a slow start. It can be a little bit rocky going, but once Japan's going, honestly, there's very few civs in the game that can really tango with it. It's just
Yeah.
a very solid civ, and I think at this point, but Iron Turtle, if he's able to get in the game, basically he needs to figure out a way to boom. Um, I would probably go on water, and I would just boom like crazy on the ocean, right? I know he's got the two caravels, but whatever. I've got a fort and a fixed gun. I just think at this point, he's just praying for a miracle and pray that he can somehow sucker Gideon into throwing away that army and buying the time to get away with some sort of a make a boom.
Well, now, fortunately, Gideon is aware of this town center here in the corner because it didn't seem like the placement was all that great. I mean, probably in the original spot would have been better or somewhere tucked in here by the fort. But out here all its own, I guess the intention was that he was not going to find it or it would delay the finding.
Okay, he does get the fire throwers out, I was about to say, because the Ronin are just mulching all these units.
Yeah, this is... These fire throwers have demonstrated themselves as
Good.
very...
And Damio does go down. So,
That's
I mean,
good.
Iron Turtle, he is scrapping, man. Credit to this guy, like, just to keep in this game, even if he's by his fingernails, and just absolutely make his opponent, suffer for every moment. And Gideon, nice and calm. He's not making any crazy mistakes. He's just like, dude, my score is almost double yours at this point. It's my game to lose. I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing and try not to throw. Again, what he does not want to do is not pay attention and lose half of his eco to a raid, because I can see all of his villagers up north, for example, on the top left.
Right. Unfortunately, Japan has been very, very commanding this game so far, just because of, Craven, I believe victory started. Yeah, he's been very commanding so far in this game just because of that outlaw play, and there it is. The GG is now called. Unable to contest the trade post line, I think, despite really fighting it out, and we weren't able to see the...
Well, and he'd be fighting age 4 units. Very smart, like I said, from Gideon to basically end it. Using just his commanding lead. I mean, that's exactly what it is. Like, look, I've got the map. It's Malta. It's a turtle civ. Why would I have to turtle? Why do I have to beat my head into this when I can just, start the trade monopoly? And I think Iron Turtle, as soon as he saw it, was probably like, it's over. You know what I mean? Because even if I go out, I'm fighting better units, right? I'm sure he's got the outlaw tech in, or he will soon. So the outlaws are just far superior. And that's just how it goes. Really clean game there from Gideon. Very clinical, very precise. Iron Turtle, hindsight's always 2020. When you rush Japan, this is like a classic thing, and this is a message to a lot of people that are probably watching this. If you're not as familiar with Age of Empires 3, or perhaps you play more at like a limited or casual level, Japan tends to be extremely miserable to fight, right?
Yeah.
The truth is you just have to rush the shit out of it, and you'd be surprised how many games you win, and it's kind of boring, and it's not really fun, and it doesn't allow a lot of creativity. And this has been a consistent complaint of Japan. The devs, to their credit, have been very consistently trying to address these things, including eliminating some of the more toxic plays like the double poof. But the fact remains, to beat Japan, the best way to do it is to just rush it hard. Take those 2 racks, rush it with pikemen. It's kind of tricky for Malta because you don't necessarily have a Hussar shipment, but imagine if he would have macroed for 500 coins, sent the new Hussar of Death, the Totenkopf Hussar. Sorry, they're not Hussars of Death, but that's a motive that they used, the Totenkopfs. Anyways, he could have totally, swung this game in the opposite direction. And again, that's what makes Age of Empires 3 so crazy, is that this small victory, that skirmish in the beginning, and Gideon allowed to map control, allowed him to just to continuously snowball out of control. So credit to Gideon for a very practiced, very clinical game, using the different alliances on the natives, for example, to get an export boost, using the Desert Archer, and taking a very commanding game in game 1 of this series.
Yeah, and also just the commitment to... Look at that. Just the commitment to a strategy. Saying, I'm choosing this and I'm not moving away from it. And so that could really hurt him, right? And we saw that in a game before, but in this case, it really helped. And him just kind of continuing to just have a deck and a strategy that is very specific, very clear cut, and he continues to go to the well on it and not trying to mix it up or be fancy or be, flustered by anything. He's like, nope, this is the strategy and I'm going to continue to use it. and those Desert Archers were, I mean, just amazing, truly, as a unit, and just showed their worth in gold, truly. And good on Iron Turtle for maintaining calmness under pressure and continuing to fight it out and really, as you said, scrap. But unfortunately, I just think that he wasn't necessarily expecting a off-standard, off-meta pick in terms of composition from Gideon, and then, of course, Japan taking off without Malta being able to boom just meant that it was just far too much pressure.
I agree, and something though to think about. Again, to Iron Turtle, we may even get to cast another game from the series because they're actually tied right now 2-2, and they both were unable to finish the game 5 because they were both tired. So apparently, every single match these guys had was quite the slugfest, back and forth, very white knuckle, drag out type of matches. So both these players, I think, again, if you've watched this and you've been like, oh man, Iron Turtle lost, right? Well, we may not be able to cast it, but if you come into our server, I promise you, there's at least 2 games of him showcasing his skill. So, thank again to both these players for letting us cast, because this was pretty fun and a pretty good example of what happens when you let Japan do what it wants to do, which is just very potent at the end of the day. And even Malta, with its Winged Court and all of its eco bonuses, can be corralled by Japanese units and the Japanese playstyle. So, again, good job, Gideon, for showcasing, even using Torii Gates, which is allowing a little bit more aggressive play in H2
Right.
to maximize his strategy. So,
Yep.
it was fun to watch.
Yeah, thank you both to Iron Turtle and Gideon for letting us cast over your games. You guys are fantastic players, regardless of win or loss, and I hope you know that. Thank you so much to all of you, our audience, for watching this video. Please go ahead and hit a like, subscribe, and comment what you thought down below. Really appreciate the following. We're almost to 500 subscribers, so we thank you for every single one of you who has joined us so far on this journey of ours and have enjoyed our content. Thank you so much, and we will see you in the next one.